This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Last time we got together with her, stumbled upon a word. And as I'm learning, there's a lot to be revealed within this one word. I'm talking about fractals. What the heck is that? It's something that refers to the art world. I'll just say that. She is an art therapist, provides a lot of insight into our creativity, inspires creativity, and so much more. And I have a feeling we're gonna learn things that we never realize, but it's things that we see every single day. She's our professional of the year. Barbara Robertson is back with us. How are you doing?
Thanks, Steve. I'm doing great. Always grateful to be here and have these fun conversations with you.
Likewise. And we stumbled upon that word fractals last time we got together, and I think we ended with forest bathing, which doesn't mean you run naked through the trees.
Right. It's not like forest streaking.
Yes. Yeah. Essentially spending time in nature, bathing yourself within the forest, like people sunbathe. This is within the forest. And why would we want to do that?
Well, it started out as a kind of a customary practice in Japan, from what I understand. And it can be very beneficial especially if you're living in an urban environment where all the geometry that you see around you is angles, straight lines, right angles, very geometric, very kind of chopped up space, very different from fractals, which are a different kind of geometry. And they occur in nature so consistently that we have adapted to be able to process seeing fractals around us so that we're not even conscious of seeing them, but they confer a sense of comfort, peace of mind. They allow our nervous systems to reset to a calm, alert state rather than maybe an anxious or agitated state, which can happen in an urban environment where so much of the environment is pretty harsh when you think of it. And so forest bathing is a way to let your nervous system reset to a healthy base level.
Ooh, never thought of it that way. I do know, I've heard it, but then I experienced it, so I truly believe it, that walking through nature, you are grounding yourself and you are truly kind of resetting. And now that I've realized the power of that, I will go through periods of time where I haven't taken a walk in nature. Or you just walk down the street, really, anything. It's cold out. How often do you do that? But I'll crave it. It's the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
And then even if I just take a walk to the mailbox where I am, I have to walk to it. It's maybe like 300, 400 feet, whatever. But just doing that, I'm like, I feel a little bit better, just a little bit. It was like maybe a 20-second walk, but there's something there. There is definitely something there.
That's right. And they've actually demonstrated that we can have a positive experience from seeing fractals in the environment within 2 seconds.
I'm not even thinking about that, Barbara. I'm just thinking about being in nature, but maybe that also ties into it because you're seeing fractals. You don't even know what a fractal is, but you're seeing it.
Exactly. In fact, I'm seeing a fractal now, and I look at your office image. It looks like you have fern leaves in that vase behind you.
Yep.
And a fern leaf is a wonderful example of a fractal because, well, I'll get into defining what that is, but it's an infinitely repeating pattern of different scales. So the large fern is a repetition of all the fern leaves. And then in the fern leaves, there are individual stems springing off the main leaf, and each of those have a similar pattern that the leaf itself has. And the edges have a similar outline that the plant has. And so it's it can go on into infinity, how many times the pattern is repeated just at different scales, from microscopic to meta sized.
It really interesting now that you're saying that, because I'm looking at my background and there are some pictures in frames, and that's very squared, and that appeals to me in one regard. But then looking at the fern, i.e., the fractal, there's something about it where there's different shading. There's just this freedom. It's repetitive. It's repetitive in that regard, but it's also just kind of a free fall. So it's like when I look back there, that I see the geometric shapes and the order of them, if you will.
Right.
And then you look at the
Right.
fern and it's kind of whatever.
That's right. And then the shadows on the wall behind it kind
Mm,
of add to that, because they've also got that arcing kind of fluid sense to them,
yeah.
which is
Mm,
very different from a right angle, very straight or very sharp edges on things. And
mm.
the sort of image of evergreen trees behind me on my wall is another example of fractals. If you think about a pine tree, you've got the tree itself, and then you've got the branches of the tree, and they're all a triangular shape, and then the needles coming off of the branches, they're smaller versions of the tree itself, right right down to the smallest part of the tree.
Yeah, I didn't even think of it. That painting image on the wall in back of you would be a fractal, but it really is.
Yeah,
Um, and
yeah.
and it's
And
I find it more definitive than the fern that I have there by a little bit, by a little bit.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, I did a little PowerPoint with some illustrations
Sure.
and a little bit more specific information about what fractals are. And I wanted to share it with our viewers and listeners because if you can actually be conscious and recognize when there are fractals in your environment, you know that you have access to a resource to reset your nervous system anytime you might feel the need of just toning yourself down a notch.
Let's take a look at that.
Okay, okay, let me get this slideshow up. Oops, that's not what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I'm intrigued when we get there in learning how looking at fractals can reset the nervous system. And let's say you're just walking down the street, walking in nature, what you should look for. Those are my future questions, but I'm thinking out loud while you get the PowerPoint going there.
Okay, can you see my screen? What's a fractal?
No, I'm actually seeing a browsing screen.
Oh
So I
dear.
think I think you brought up the maybe not the right one, because
Huh.
usually on the screen share it asks you which screen you want to
Yeah,
share.
let me
Yeah,
try that again. Let's see, where is my PowerPoint? Oh, here we go.
there we go. Beautiful.
Okay, so
Mm.
fractals and peace of mind, why forest bathing is good for you. So a fractal is a complex geometric shape that has self-similarity at different scales, meaning the smaller part of the fractal resemble the whole shape. So if you think about a snowflake or a tree, so there's a snowflake.
Yep.
So the snowflake as a whole, and then each little segment of the crystal in the snowflake is a replica of the snowflake as a whole.
Hmm.
Um, Fractals are found in nature, in snowflakes and trees. I'm sorry, I got a new computer, and the touch screen, the tracking pad on this thing is so sensitive I can barely
Yeah.
touch it. So fractals show up in snowflakes, trees, coastlines, and they have very intricate patterns. So there's the snowflake example. So this is from an article by Rita Tromben about using fractals in constructed environments for human beings because of their calming nature. So they have researched and found health benefits, including reduced stress, improved cognitive functioning, enhanced creativity and problem solving, a heightened appreciation for nature, and more positive emotions.
Hmm.
And they occur within minutes and even seconds of exposure. And as people increasingly find themselves in an urban landscape, they become disconnected from the fractals in nature and lose the stress reduction qualities. And instead, they build up stress, placelessness, sort of feeling ungrounded, and sick building syndrome, which is where you just don't feel healthy in the environment that you're in. And nobody's really sure why, whether it has to do with limited ventilation, but there is a theory that it has to do with not having enough kind of fractal visual elements in our visual field. Fractal fluency is what makes it really attached to our comfort zone. So because our ancestors, excuse me, were exposed to nature's fractal scenery 24/7, pretty much, our visual systems have adapted so that we can efficiently process fractals. We don't have to think about there being a fractal in order to find ourselves moving into a comfort zone. What's most intriguing is that it's innate and not learned. The preferences for fractals have been detected in urban raised kids as young as 3 years old. So here are some examples of fractals. Again, sorry, moving through these visuals a little faster than I want to, but there with the tree, you can see, if I can hold this still for half a second. Stop. That the trunk of the tree is widest. And Leonardo da Vinci had a theory that if you could fold a tree up, fold up all the branches, and then the branches that are coming off the branches and the twigs that are coming off the smaller branches, if you could fold them all up, it would be an equal volume all the way up. So each
Wow.
branch is a fraction of the one that it came out of, and the branches that come out of it are smaller fractions of that secondary branch. And the twigs are fractions of the branches that give rise to them.
Do you feel what's going on here is the best way I can verbalize it with what's going through my head? It's almost like hypnotic.
Yes, I do think that there's a quality like that. There's a repetitiveness of the pattern, a mirroring
Yeah. And and
that.
and I don't know past that where the magic is or what's going on or where the calming effect kicks in, but it just seems like the pattern repetition, the randomness, that there is intention, but it's also random at the same time. Um, it almost like just breaks the mold of, like, for example, the pictures in my background. They're square. They've got a black frame. Okay, that's it. Done.
Yes, yeah, there's depth. The next couple of slides I have are examples of man-made and natural occurrences of fractals. So on the right-hand side is a photographic image of a brain coral.
Yeah. Mm.
So called because our brains also have this fractal pattern in the way that, the tissue is sort of crinkled around itself. And on the left, it's a garden maze in Cornwall, England, that's probably been there for hundreds of years. So human beings have learned to recreate fractal patterns to create pleasing environments.
Hmm.
Here's another where this is just an image of an abstract painting that is free for public access online, and then an image of flames. And you can see there's a similar sort of verticality to both of them, but also there's this sort of twisting and turning between the vertical elements that gives it a rhythmic appearance.
It's kind of interesting that it is random, but it's not.
It is random, but it's not.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's an inherent internal consistency to it. And I think that's another cue that our nervous system takes to indicate safety.
Yes, I was going to say the same exact thing. We're bred, excuse me, to feel safe. So
Yes.
we want to have that predictability in whatever it is.
Predictability, order.
But
Yes.
but there's a
Yes.
beauty in it where it's not so rigid. There is some fluid. I guess it's fluid in momentum where you look at a frame, picture in a frame, and I'm not talking about the picture, I'm just talking about the square shape of the frame.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yep.
It's predictable, but it's a little too predictable.
Yeah, yeah. Like, notice if you're, I don't know, driving through an area where there might be a window in a building or a home that has an arched top.
Hmm,
And when you see that, it's so different from the rectangular, or square window shapes that it gives a kind of a grace to the building that just the straight rectangular windows can't engender.
sure.
So
Wow.
let me shift on to another set. Okay, snowflakes on the left. We'll come back here. And then
Hmm.
a shot of a mosque in Iran. The ceiling of the mosque is done in mosaic tile.
Hmm. Now those shapes are more predictable, the way they're arranged, but it's
Yes,
there's still a feeling of freedom within.
there is, and there's a sort of almost a playful quality. I mean, the snowflakes, of course, just randomly landed on that surface, but they're kind of interlocking where they've overlapped. And some of the ceiling sections in this mosque appear to be overlapping because some are behind others because of their three-dimensional, projections and rejections. But we
Hmm.
still get that same kind of repetitive rhythm that's there. And let's see, this little section here that is the center of a group of these things mirrors this section.
Hmm.
And so you'll see elsewhere, there's one that's even smaller. So this is the differences in scale, the infinite repetition in smaller and smaller scale that defines fractals. Now, these are interesting because these are, excuse me again, um, these are man made fractal based designs. So, this on this side is the view into a hotel room in a Westin hotel in Manhattan. And the ceiling lights have been made with divisions that let light through in a way that would be similar to sun coming through um, a canopy, a tree canopy that you're standing underneath.
I
So it
love whatever they're doing there. I don't know how they did it, but man, that looks nice.
doesn't it look nice?
Oh,
Yes. And you can see how the light pattern on the wall and the other on both sides is
ooh.
also broken up and does this kind of repetitive
Well, you're
rhythmical.
talking basically about the reflection that's hitting the wall from the ceiling.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And from then there's look to be some glass panels on the right, maybe a glass door that's also picking up that same pattern. So you've got the pattern in the ceiling, and then you've got reflections of the pattern, and then you've got actually light and shadow patterns from the light shining on the wall. So all of those are kind of repeating that rhythmical design to begin with. Similarly, the
Wow.
window shades, it looks like sun shining through trees outside into the windows, doesn't
Hmm.
it? It's
Oh,
printed on the window shade.
oh, this is really nice. Wow.
Isn't it? So even if it's cloudy outside, you have the sense that the sun is shining
Hmm.
and there are trees outside. So you're close to nature. You have cues, visual cues that nature is nearby.
It just invokes a feeling of calmness just looking at those artificial shadows.
Doesn't
Wow.
it? Doesn't it?
Huh.
And beneath in this picture of the classroom, there is a frieze, like the upper area of the wall has a border around it that are based on palm leaf fractals, just the way a central stem and then palm fronds branch off from each stem, and then they sort of overlapped leaf sections. And then this is a light fixture, like might even
Mm,
be fluorescent lights, but the surface is wavy like an ocean wave.
wow. It's
So
really, really cool.
evoking, and this is a middle school in West Baltimore. So I
Mm,
thought that was pretty cool that they had,
yeah.
indications of actually using it in environments. This was another one that really caught my eye. On the right side is just human skin. On the left side is a sand dune in the Namib Desert.
Mm,
And look at
wow.
that kind of vertical visual pattern. It's very much like the wrinkles in human skin.
Never thought of it. Huh.
Yeah, yeah. So, patterns in nature. I ran across a paper that a young man did who was in architecture school in India about 20 years ago, and he wrote about patterns in nature having different kinds of repetition. So, there's symmetry, which can be bilateral, like you and I, split us down the middle, and we're relatively the same on either side, or radial, like flower petals, or rotational, like a spiral, like maybe a double helix, DNA. Trees and fractals, so branching plants also matches rivers and gullies and washes, and even the Grand Canyon is a fractal pattern in the way the water ate through the stone if you saw it from above. Spirals, another pattern that you see in pine cones, nautilus shells, the sunflower seed center, that actually replicates something called a Fibonacci sequence, which, if you're a mathematician, you know something about, but it's been too long since I had math for me to identify or define that. But it is a predictable order of increase that, again, is consistent and sort of gives that sense of things are happening in a predictable, safe way.
Gotta tell you, when we briefly mentioned fractals last time we got together, I had more of a picture in my mind of just the tree branches. And I don't know how far we would get with this, but I had no idea that it branches, pun intended, branches out to so many other things that we see every single day, right down to our skin, which is a fractal, and inherently is a source of calmness for us.
Isn't that amazing?
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. And the scale, goes from global or cosmic even because the rings of Saturn are a fractal. And we've got waves and dunes and bubbles and foams. Did you ever, play with soap bubbles and notice how every bubble is a replica of every other bubble? The only difference is the size.
Yeah.
They don't tend to come out in a different shape. Then there are things like wasps' nests, those little mud nests that have the individual sections, and honeycombs, reptile scales, fish scales, the cracks of drying mud,
Mm,
spots and stripes like you see in lizards and, in leopards, butterflies, zebras.
amazing. Mm.
Repetitive things really help to calm us. And then one last suggestion, if you want to find more, just go Google about Roman, Egyptian, Aztec, Incan, Mayan architecture, friezes by Greek artists around 300 years before Christ. Um,
This is an eye opener. Like it really is. And we may be looking at these things and we're just about out of time. We may be looking at these things and not even realize that we feel better in looking at them. um, because we're so used to just looking and seeing, oh, there's a tree, there's a
right,
fern, there's a plant.
right, right. It's occurred to me that even, in this temperate climate where in the winter the deciduous trees lose their leaves, it actually reveals the fractal nature of the tree structure.
For sure.
So even though the landscape can look bleak, there is still that element of pleasure in looking at how the branches branch off and continue to follow the orderly pattern.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing this today. I was actually thinking, well, this fractal conversation is going to get a little deep. I don't, I got to be prepared for this. No, this is like, it's nature. It's wonderful. And it's everywhere. And I guess maybe the takeaway here is when you look at these shapes, these things around us, if it is in fact a fractal, how do you feel? What are you feeling after you look at it? Be aware, be intentional.
That's right. And if you want to create, what a wonderful inspiration as a place to start from. If you start with the pattern of a fern leaf, or the pattern of a maple leaf, or
Sure.
the pattern of fish scales, or peacock feathers, all of those things are fractals in the way that they're structured. And they have both interest and a peaceful quality.
Yeah, last time we got together, I was talking about forest bathing. Didn't get to it. The weather was cold. wasn't perfect for it. Going to be a little warmer this weekend. I think I might just do that, but I'm glad I waited because now I will be looking for it.
And even if you don't actually get into the forest, I want to invite you to look around where you actually go every day. If you're stuck at a stoplight, look around and see if you can spot a fractal in that environment.
I'm going to do that, but I really want to think about what I'm feeling at the moment. Like just even, I know it sounds silly, but like a fern in back of me or whatever. Take 10 seconds, take 15 and just
Yes.
stare at it and just
Yeah.
take a
Yeah.
deep breath and take it all in and maybe
Right.
see if you feel a little calmer and you feel a little bit better just for that, split second.
And I'll tell you, that's why I'm thinking about red lights, because I am infamously impatient at a red light.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so that for me would really be a useful thing to do with that time.
For sure.
Would be to say, okay, let's unplug from driving from A to B and just see what's here that I can take in that would feel good.
Your website, Robertson Art Therapy.
LLC.com.
Thought that was it. Just wanted to make sure. And on the other side of things, we'll get to emails next time we get together. And if you got something you want to share with us, instant feedback, steve@gmail.com. Barbara, thank you so much for today. I'm looking forward to driving now. You're kidding. I really am.
Great.
Yeah.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I always love to share what I'm learning. And I still am learning an awful lot, just, from kind of coming across these accidental topics like forest bathing that really opened up another pathway for me to look into.
For sure. There's much more going on here than we realize. It's not just walking in the woods. Thank you for today. We'll catch up soon.
Okay, take care.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
You too.
Bye now.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.